Christina, the mantra for tomorrow night's race is checkers or wreckers. It's pretty creative, you have to admit. What it means is get the checkered flag or wreck your car trying. Tonight, a world record is in jeopardy. The most continuous high fives is the goal from this group right here. Dave Saunders is the mastermind behind this. Where'd you get the idea? Maybe it was first game jitters, but this game didn't get really interesting between Georgia Tech and Virginia Tech until midway through the fourth quarter. When a college football team underachieves, what do you do for change? You can't fire the student athletes, so in many cases, it's the coaches that become the casualties. The issue is Washington has lost its last 10 Monday night home games. Now, with all due respect to last year's Final Four team, Troy Daniels told me he thinks this team will create its own identity. Now, you may remember Tony Stewart wasn't able to come to the White House last year when the drivers were honored, but this year, a totally different story. That's because the number 14 car was parked on the South Lawn. On November 4th, the Redskins were 3-6, and Mike Shanahan said he needed to evaluate players for next year. Translation, this season is over. Not so fast. 7 weeks later, and here we are, RG3 and the Redskins playing rival Dallas. At stake, the team's first NFC East crown this millennium and a spot in the playoffs. Yeah, Phil, we're joined by Casey Kane, who hopes confetti falls on his number 5 Chevy come Saturday night. You already have 2 wins, but you can really improve your stock going into the chase. Talk about your approach heading into Saturday. Phil, after competing in the CAA conference for the last 17 years, VCU announced the highly anticipated move to the Atlantic 10 in all sports effective July 1st. Last time Dale Earnhardt Jr. won a Sprint Cup race prior to yesterday, President George W. Bush was still in the White House. Have a joy, you're a Redskins fan. Years from now, like other Redskins fans, you'll want to remember where you were when Robert Griffin III threw his first touchdown and got his first win for the Burgundy and Gold. So, where were you today? Uchland, who was in this game just last year, had a bad break on the way to Salem when their school bus broke down. Who said winning championships comes easy. A month away from the start of training camp in Charlottesville, and we may have a quarterback controversy on our hands for the UVA football team. We start with the passing of a coaching legend in these parts, Paul Keyes, VCU's head baseball coach for 18 seasons. Keyes died Saturday, losing his battle with cancer. Today, his friends, family, as well as the VCU community and the baseball community as a whole mourn his death. The diamond sits idle on a sunny November day, but it was just last February when Paul Keyes was walking these very grounds getting ready for his 18th season leading the Rams baseball team. This year would be his last with VCU, and after a courageous battle with melanoma, Keyes has joined the team above. Now the people who know him best mourn his loss.
I do have Coach Keyes, who was a mentor and a guy who I learned a tremendous amount from. I also have Paul Keyes, my friend, who was a guy who was very warm and very loving and a wonderful father and husband. And there was also Key Dog, which a lot of people know as well in the area, which was the cooler side of Coach.
Keyes is VCU baseball's winningest coach with 603 victories. He led the Rams to 8 NCAA tournaments and was CAA Coach of the Year 4 times. But his biggest impact was on his players. Clay Meredith was just one of 36 players that made it to the big leagues under Keyes.
17, 18-year-old high school kid, when I got to go sit in his office for the first time, and, there's this almost like this aura around him, Coach Keyes, VCU baseball, I was almost starstruck being around the man, going to play for him and getting to know him as a coach. I love competing for that guy.
When Keyes fell ill this spring, he continued to support his beloved Rams, and typical to his selfless attitude, he wanted to make sure the program was in good hands without him.
The forethought of his thoughts were always the team and continuing to move forward, and really he put a lot of things in motion that in case something like this happened that we wouldn't miss a beat.
Not knowing how long we'd have with him, but he wanted to talk about the team and making sure that the team was okay and his assistants were okay, and that really sums up Paul.
As much as Keyes was an X's and O's guy, a true baseball tactician, he also was a builder of men.
He was that father figure, and like I said, it wasn't always about baseball. Be a good man. I think that would probably be if there's one thing I could do for him, it would probably be to do that, and I think he'd be proud.
Keyes' legacy will certainly live on.
He's a living legend, not only in this area, but in all of college baseball, some of the things he's done, and really was, a guy that put Richmond baseball on the map in a lot of ways.
Again, Paul Keyes dead at the age of 50. He is survived by his wife, Tricia, and their 3 children. Building a college basketball program involves a lot of things: recruiting, coaching, execution, sometimes luck. VCU has had success in all of those areas in the last 4 years under head coach Shaka Smart. But it's not just Smart and the players that deserve the credit. Here's the story of one assistant coach who has been a key piece to the Rams' puzzle. You already know VCU head coach Shaka Smart, but chances are you aren't as familiar with his first lieutenant, Mike Rhodes. Now, to appreciate Rhodes, the coach, you first have to hear about Rhodes, the player. In high school, he was an all-state guard in Pennsylvania, and in college, he was the National Player of the Year and guided Lebanon Valley to a national championship in Division III.
He also can go out there on the court and practice right now at 40 years old and be the best guard in our program. He would have played 15, 20 minutes on our Final Four team.
He's probably one of the best shooters I've seen, you know, and I've been around a lot of great shooters.
Maybe the toughest guy I ever played against.
Against.
Yes, sir.
At just 25 years old, 3 years after becoming an assistant at nearby Randolph-Macon, Rhodes took over the Yellow Jackets program.
I had a dream job at 25 years old and absolutely loved it, and we were very fortunate to bring in some great players that had some great careers.
After 10 years of tremendous success at Macon, Rhodes knew he wanted to make the jump to Division I. A school just 15 miles south seemed to be a perfect fit for Rhodes and his family.
My wife and I, our date nights were coming down here, getting something to eat and going to see VCU games in the Siegel Center, and that's just what we did.
Soon, Rhodes would move from the stands at the Siegel Center to the sidelines. Shaka Smart, relatively unknown at the time, was introduced as VCU's head coach on April 2nd, 2009. Shaka knew he had to fill out his assistant coaching staff quickly, and 2 days after his hire, he had dinner with Mike Rhodes. But it wasn't here in Richmond, but halfway across the country at the Final Four in Detroit.
My head was spinning at that point because I got the job a few days earlier.
I grew up a Villanova fan all my life, and here they are in the Final Four in Detroit, and I didn't see 1 second of that game because I was at dinner with Shaka, sort of interviewing for this position.
As soon as we started talking, I knew that he was the guy that we had to have on our staff.
Just 2 years later, and it was Smart and Rhodes coaching at the Final Four.
To take it to the next level, to get to a Final Four, nobody envisions that. You hope for that stuff to happen, but then to experience it.
Shaka describes Rhodes as a great X's and O's guy, part of the reason he's in charge of the half-court defense, which is far less glamorous than VCU's Havoc-style press. Meanwhile, Rhodes describes himself as tough, hard-nosed, and demanding.
Intense, fierce, confident.
Never lets us slip. You know, his expectations never drops. I look at him as like a father type for me. And I have my father, love my father. But, you know, on the court, he just brings something out of me that not too many people can.
And many times that's in direct competition in practice, where Rhodes isn't afraid to D you up or even take an elbow to the face at the expense of his two front teeth. As for the future, Rhodes says he does have a goal of being a D1 head coach, but is still very happy at VCU.
I can't believe how much I'm enjoying this 4 years in now of being an assistant, working for Shaka. I'm having a blast, and I think everybody knows that.
We'll be back right after this. Thank you, Jason. The Virginia Tech Hokies will scrimmage for the first time in camp tomorrow, a chance for head coach Frank Beamer to get his first look at his team in game action. But first, Beamer had to shine those pearly whites today for the team picture and all that comes with Media Day. Beamer now in his 26th team photo leading the Hokies. And like any team, Tech has some question marks going into the season. The defense, more of a sure thing. They will bring their proverbial lunch pail to practice every day, a unit bringing back 9 starters. But the offense has much more turnover. Other than Logan Thomas, only 2 other players return with the first team unit, almost a brand new O-line, and guys stepping into roles at all the skill positions. Still, Thomas has faith in his guys, but isn't quite ready to give them a nickname.
Kind of our job to go out there and make y'all give us one. Just simply playing the best we possibly can, being physical, strong, a little bit nasty at times and explosive. You don't want to be the side of the ball that lets down the other side of the ball. And practice has probably been the hardest practices I've seen since I've been here, the first 4. And I'm excited to see what the rest of the camp holds and what the rest of the year holds, just simply because you don't want to let down each other.
13 seasons, over 300 games, 2 championships, and 3 Goalkeeper of the Year awards. It's not a bad resume, so you can't blame Ronnie Pascal for hanging him up at the end of the season. Still, it will be sad to see him go if tonight was indeed his final home game at City Stadium. Playoff implications on the line as Pascal and the Kickers hosted Harrisburg. Game tied at 1 into the second half. Pascal doing his part to keep it that way. 62nd minute, Sasha Garez with some room down the left flank. He'll cross it in front. Christopher Agorser sends it over the crossbar. Game remains tied. 77th minute, Kickers on the free kick. Gerson Dos Santos will shoot it from there. But what a save from the Islanders' Nick Noble. But the Kickers would cash in on a set play just a minute later. Off the corner from Stanley Niazamba, William Yambi heads it in. That is your game winner. The Kickers get a huge home win, 2-1, and Ronnie Pascal's curtain call at City Stadium.
You know, for me personally, to see the support that was out here was just, it was unbelievable. You know, it's a lot of emotions. It's been a great 13 years, and it's hard to see it come to an end.
All right, to the Diamond we go. The Flying Squirrels hosting Bowie tonight. Already down 1-0 in the first when Bowie's Zealous Wheeler singles to center. That brings in Ty Kelly to score 2-0 Bay Sox. Very next batter is Ronnie Welty. He slaps one through the right side. Caleb Joseph starting at second. He will test the arm of Juan Perez. Bad move. Perez guns him down. Johnny Manel applying the tag. The Squirrels get out of the inning thanks to Perez's terrific throw. Top 2, Bowie still applying the pressure. Man on for Buck Britton. He singles to center. This time it's a different story. Gary Brown's throw is cut off. Jonathan Scoop scores. Bay Sox beat the Squirrels 6-4 is your final. Denny Hamlin will start 23rd in tomorrow's race at Watkins Glen, having to qualify in his backup car today after crashing in practice yesterday. We caught up with Denny at Kings Dominion this week and asked him about Sunday's race.
There is no road courses in the Chase, so you won't really take any car or any knowledge from this weekend and apply it. So it's kind of a one-off deal where you just try to get the best fuel mileage you can and hope that you're up front with just a few laps to go.
After the break, Negro League baseball legends pay a visit to Richmond. Stay with us. Welcome back. The third round action from the PGA Championship. Tiger Woods not liking his approach shot on the 7th hole for good reason. That ends up in a bunker. Tiger's weekend struggles continue at majors. He's 5 shots off the lead. Same hole, Woods' playing partner Vijay Singh will drain the long birdie putt. He was your co-leader with Rory McIlroy before play was suspended due to rain. They'll wrap it up tomorrow. Well, you can't tell the history of America's pastime in this country without a very big chapter on the Negro League. Today, the Negro League experience was on full display at Richmond's Virginia Historical Society. A couple Flying Squirrels players joined a foursome of former Negro Leaguers, including Henry Pistol Mason, Joe Pop Durham, Mamie Peanut Johnson, and Pedro Sierra. The living legends spoke to visitors, signed autographs, and answered questions about their playing days.
You're talking about some good history. I mean, we had baseball players that should have been in the major league before they were 25 years old, but they were the wrong color.
A lot of people do not know that women played in the Negro Leagues, and it's enlightening for me to inform people.
That's your sports this Saturday night. I'm Yianni Kourakis, 8 News at 11. Return right after this.